this is I Do Damage, and welcome back to the channel. In this Astaria video, I want to talk about this indie MMORPG that has had multiple delays, but hopefully is coming to Steam soon. If you check the Steam store page, you'll notice that it says January 24th. I can now confirm that that'll be even further down the road. I think he said January 28th during the Q&A, but if you back the game on the website, you can actually get access around the 24th. That date's not confirmed, but that was what the developer had said during this Q&A. Anyway, this game is super early from the sounds of it, but I like the overall feel and the way the game sounds. It sounds really cool. It's an MMORPG, which I like, and it's a hardcore one in the fact. Anyway, I'm thinking about making more videos covering this game if there's enough interest, but this video is actually going to be a Q&A that happened on January 7th on the Discord for Astaria, where the developer streamed in a voice channel and we all just sat in there and we got to ask questions and have a conversation about the game. And that's what this video is. So the credit goes to Proverbs on the Astaria Discord for this video. I did ask permission for this video to be posted, so don't worry about that. Make sure you check out the game if you haven't heard about it yet. It definitely looks very interesting. We're going to have to wait and see, obviously, further down the line. But anyway, I know that the Q&A, this video is like 2 hours long, but there's a lot here. Maybe in the future I'll do a summary of the Q&A and kind of the interesting points about the game. But for now, I hope you can enjoy this bonus video. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe. And also, I do stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Hopefully I can catch you there sometime. Enjoy.
The question was, are we getting the test anytime soon? Yeah, you're getting it soon. Am I gonna give a date? No, I'm gonna stop giving dates. I don't want to give dates.
Yeah.
Months, man. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I've been saying is like as soon as the test is up, like the server's up and you can connect to it, and the new client's been updated to Steam, then I'm gonna be like, hey, server's up, go update your Steam. You know what I mean?
But I'll already be on it.
I can say one thing. Just keep your eyes open. Next week. I don't want to say a date, but next week definitely.
Speaking of which,
the God Rock is coming in.
Will there be any Steam notifications of when the release date's coming out? Because there's been instances where you forget to update it.
Yeah. Well, it's like I try to update it, and then Steam changed it where like they have to do it, and then sometimes they won't do it. And so like, I guess because they're not in, or like I'll do it like on Friday, and then they'll send me email back saying like, hey, that's a sales weekend, you can't do it then. Then like by the time I respond, it's already like they're already gone out of the office and they won't do it till like the following Monday morning.
Poor Eldath is still in the other channel.
But it's okay. It's like I said, it's all right. It's not a big deal. I'll pull him up. So.
Could you like shelf like Astaria for a few weeks? Like shelve it, like put it in private and put it back in later?
Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry. I had a couple of things pop up.
Could you like shelf your game for a few weeks and bring it back into the store once you feel more comfortable that release date's coming in soon?
I kind of agree with that. I honestly feel that putting it out and get everyone's hopes up was actually a bad idea, especially with the 2-week delays at the beginning. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, when it's properly out and ready, then set it up for Steam.
I think with it already being on Steam and like the expectations are like already there, I definitely don't want to shelf it right now. If I take a release date off it, people are definitely that's gonna be worse, I think. That'll be worse because in the sense that like you guys probably be okay with that, but a lot of people coming in would be like, is this a scam? And that'll look more like it'll actually look like a scam if I do that. Yeah.
They haven't bought the game yet, so
I know that's what I'm saying. Like some people just get mad. It's like guys, relax. Like you haven't charged anyone money on Steam yet for it. So
like you could put like a news article, be like, oh yeah, by the way, the game is not ready yet. Give me a few more months or a few more weeks.
Like the game is in early access and it will be updated periodically.
Yeah.
I think the other thing though that the reason why we need to get out to Steam ASAP is some of our systems revolving around Steam haven't been actually like properly tested aside from like having like 10-20 people do it. So I'd like to see how it handles the systems with Steam later on. One of the things is that like when you here's how it'll work. When you buy the game or when you activate the key on Steam, there'll be a register button from the client, or it'll tell you to go to this website, playastaria.com, or it'll kind of warn you like you require a PlayAstaria account, and then you'll go to the website, and if the game's in Steam, when you create your account, it'll have a button that says login. You'll create the account, log into your account, then it'll have a button that says login with Steam. You'll log in with Steam, and then from there, it'll detect whether or not it's in your account. Then it allows you to log in. So that's one of the biggest things we need to test, and there's no other way to test other than having like a bunch of people just like slam the system. There's no way to kind of simulate that either without having a bunch of people, I guess, like I said, slam the system. That plus like having a server up and going kind of helps a lot with some of the things we want to do. And one of the things
basically test the load.
Yeah, it's not so much like load testing as in what the server can handle. It's more so like systems in general when it comes to like Steam interacting with the backend. And let's say like if some people, let's say you want to refund and when the game's out, right? And I refund your game, and what I would have to do is go in and remove your CD key, and then we'd have to see how well like that happens. You know what I mean? Let's say that happens, right? But it doesn't properly remove your account. You'll technically still be able to play if you somehow loaded the game up without Steam. You know what I mean? If that was the thing, but we're hoping there's no bugs with that, so we don't want people to abuse systems like that. So in order to have, like I said, in order to have that out,
gotta test it out.
Yep, gotta test it out.
Yeah, speaking of lag and all delays, will there be like any issues about like character leak information where if you store a new character or several characters being made at the same time, would that affect the server in any way?
No, that doesn't. I don't think that'll affect the server. That's not. They're two totally different systems. They'll be on the character like the database is stored locally on the server, but like the systems that handle different things, it's horizontally scaled. So like if we really needed to, we could put each system, like the combat server, the chat server, the login server, the character server, we can put each system on a totally different server within that data center, and it'll locally connect. It'll run way better than it would if it was all on one machine.
Yeah,
so,
because I
so no, I'm not worried about that.
Where the database was like linking information for a few months, which made character creation really difficult for a good.
No, I'm not worried about that. That's something that won't.
I have a question, if able to.
Go ahead.
So I was wondering if you're gonna ever have like support for certain mods and stuff like that, like how WoW has like plugins that they allow and things like that the client can run. Is that a possibility in the future that you might add something similar to that?
I want to say no plans for it right now, but I am open to that. When I played WoW and I did a lot of raiding, I installed quite a bit of UI mods like LVUI and such, and deadly boss mods, which was almost like you almost had to have DBM when you wanted to raid in WoW. So yeah, I'm open to the idea, but during early access, probably not. We probably won't even see anything. We may not even see anything like that till like way past 1.0 launch. I'm open to the idea though. How about that? I am a firm believer in like players playing the way they want to play for the most part when it comes to UI and such. But I definitely don't want anything that's like we're then touching a borderline thing where like what if the mod is like borderline cheat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then at that point, that means we'd have to figure out how we can police mods and what's approved and what's not. And then it gets kind of fuck you with that.
One good way to police it is to have an API set up specifically for the modders that only allow them to have access to certain individuals.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's not so much like directly cheating. It's more so like what information, like, are you playing with information that like shouldn't be displayed all the time? You know what I mean? Like certain mods that give you such a good advantage that like it's a necessary mod. And examples like DBM. I don't like that DBM was required for like actual like rating outside of like LFR. And I didn't like that at all because it's like, why do I have to install a mod?
Seeing everyone's aggro, seeing you're about to over.
Yeah, with that being said though, with certain information that we want in the game, like because I'm experienced from like raiding in other games and a lot of the PvP games or PvE games, I do like to have certain information ready to the player. So let's say something that you think should be modded in, maybe just will actually get put into the regular base game through the UI. You know what I mean? So it just depends on how we handle it and how much time we have to like retouch the UI as we go. UI changes is going to happen quite a bit throughout early access. We might like what you're seeing right now. I guarantee you, it's going to be changed 100% from a year from now. By the time we leave early access, it's going to be like completely.
Oh yeah, with exploring being a thing, will there be something like a sheep camp, like say like in Skyrim, where you find like mercenaries or merchants exploring, then they set up camp whenever they like to?
Camps probably not, but roaming NPCs, yes. One of the first roaming NPCs in the game right now is an NPC that kind of runs around and is a friendly NPC, almost like a guard style NPC, but he roams it in like the world on a set patrol path. And if he like, let's say he gets within range of you while you're fighting, he'll actually help you in combat. So you'll see wandering NPCs. Some might even have like a vendor on them or repair on them. So we didn't want the world to feel like it's just players out in the world. So there's definitely some kind of like little more dynamic NPCs. Whether or not we touch on that system, like I said, depends on priority. Let's say best case scenario, launch is awesome. We garner a pretty good population of like, I don't know, like 1,000 or something, and with that population of 1,000, it allows us to really expand and develop even more with like whatever funds we get or something. I don't know, and then
Now,
what's up?
Out of curiosity, because you saying having roaming NPCs, that also brings another question to mind with the with in terms of being basically outlaws. Like, are players going to be able to do shit like that where they could steal from certain NPCs? Like, say there's like a carriage or something going along a road, and that changes like dynamics with certain cities, or
nope. We didn't want that. I'm not trying to build like a totally sandbox MMO when it comes to that regard. So that's probably like a no. Maybe in the future we can revisit it and then see if it's still possible. But like the reason why I definitely don't.
You could probably do something like a quest where people are like banished or disguised as merchants, and then like you inspect them, and in return transform from a friendly NPC to a hostile NPC. You could probably do something like that.
Yeah, maybe, but I just definitely don't want to. Basically, what I don't want the idea that it's an open sandbox where you can do whatever you like. It's not. That's not what Star is trying to be. So like when it comes to those kind of like gameplay mechanics, we're definitely not trying to enforce that or bring that out. Maybe in the future, like sequel title, possibly like we could probably add a lot more features in. But with where Star is currently at and what I'm trying to keep things within feasible like development plans, I don't want to add. I don't want to go into feature creep. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, where like you're constantly adding in features and you're way too far behind on like getting the important stuff out. So there's a number of variables, but for now I'm gonna say probably not. Where you probably won't see anything like that.
Didn't we discuss with the original NPC just cheesing it and just bringing monsters to that NPC for it to kill? I remember we discussed.
That's definitely possible. But you can't. The NPCs won't be that powerful enough that like you can by yourself take an NPC to like a fiend level tier monster and they'll be a one shot. They're not going to be able to do that. Though the NPCs are actually almost around the power level of like a maxed out, not maxed up, like a level 20 player.
Oh, speaking of which, will there be some form of buffer range where a monster can only run so far before they get resetted?
Yeah, it's already in the game right now where monsters after they leave a certain aggro range is from where you aggroed them, they will go back to where they're at and then reset their health to 100%. All right, Altru said, I'll read out the question. The player versus devs aspects, is that more of a time limited events type thing or would it be common that we can expect? Depends exactly on what you're referring to in the PVD aspect. So there's two types of there's two primary variables when it comes to PVD. The first variable is a curator system. The curator system dynamically takes the information that we have on the server, like where players are based and what level they are, how many players are online, and it dynamically moves stuff around without having me to actually do it myself. That's one aspect of PVD. I'm able to manipulate the setting for it. Like I can then go onto the web panel and then change a setting from like passive to aggressive, or it'll do it automatically when there's enough players online during prime time, and it'll basically set certain faction of the monsters who are listed under quote unquote the darkness to then be aggressive and then roam out into areas that they don't normally roam out, or spawn monsters in certain areas they don't normally spawn at. Now, with that being said, that makes it so it's like I don't have to be online 24/7 to do that. That's just one variable. That's just an example of like the curator system that I have in mind. The next is yeah.
Speaking of which,
that's
just cause any form of server lag of like a sudden change into it, like transition from passive to aggressive. Will there be like a slow progression to it, or like a sharp 360 passive aggressive?
I'll get to your question in just a second. With that being said, the more hands-on the other variable with what your question was, Alter, was that there are events that are more hands-on. An example is like maybe we'll have an event where like during like a special time of month, and a GM or a player or even me might take control of a monster, spawn a bunch of monsters on top of me, and then kind of take the army with me to siege a town or something. You guys have to break the siege. If you don't, then the town gets flipped, and all the NPCs will despawn, and then a bunch of monsters will spawn on top of that town instead. And that's an example of like something that's a little more handcrafted to that last part of your question, Alter. So there are times where you can go hands on, and there are times where we won't go hands on. So it's just we don't want it to be like completely one or the other. And you're definitely probably gonna not see the events as often as you would like, especially in the beginning. But later on, you'll probably see some of that stuff happen here and there. We don't want the hands-on events to be like something that's like what players rely on for the dynamic part of it, because we want to make sure everybody has that feeling of dynamic world without having someone directly doing it. We want it to be where it's automated to a certain point where I can just go through a web panel, click, change a couple settings, and it'll automatically automate for me without having to worry about micromanaging or being online 24/7. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I don't know if it's already been answered. What's the level cap? I know that once you're 12, you can pick an advancement class, but
the current level cap right now is level 30.
And then go ahead.
The intent, that's the current level cap. The intended level cap is that after the game's out in 1.0, it's probably going to be 40 or 45.
So and then for the advanced classes or whatever, can you respec them, or are you just locked in as soon as you decide?
At the moment, I definitely want to make it so you're probably going to be locked into that class once you decide. The reason for that is we didn't want players to just constantly change their respec. We might make it so you can in the future for like a very like really rare or tough item to farm, but we don't want it where we didn't want WoW style. You know what I mean? Where like you're constantly respecting your role. Like it didn't make any sense to me. So the decision you make is the decision that it has a lot of weight behind it. So let's say you're a squire and you're debating between becoming a knight or a Highlander. We didn't want Highlanders to just be able to just eat an item and then pick up a sword and shield and have the knight ability. It just felt weird to me like that if that was the case. So when you make a character, we want you to really feel that was a heavyweight decision. And with that being said, it's not as fun for some people, but for most in the style of Astaria, we wanted your decisions, especially with a class, to have that much weight behind it.
Yeah, it seems like you're trying for more of a hardcore type of MMO, so I think that definitely fits.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions, if that's all right. Is there going to be fast travel?
No. Well, no, but we might introduce some kind of like well, there's definitely one thing right now that's in the game. Everybody right now, just for the sake of the early access testing phase, has a 1 hour cooldown teleport back to town ability. Just for the sake of so that way people can unstuck their characters, so that way we don't have to worry about like oh, my character got stuck, I'm gonna have to log in and do it. But we're gonna try and tell people like, hey, try not to rely on it because it's not always gonna be there. But I know people are gonna use it anyway. Like if you're mining, right, you're full on weight, you're just gonna use the teleport back to town. But we put it in there just to give you the ability to unstuck your character if in the event that does happen.
Awesome. So since there's no fast travel, is there mounts?
Yes, there are mounts in the game, mostly horses at the moment. They're really hard to get, so you're probably not going to get them for a while. And at the moment, they work the same way as WoW does, where you kind of just hit a button and summon a mount, and it appears out of nowhere. Then you get a speed buff. But we're gonna redo the mount system, so it acts more like a vehicle that you park or ride around, and has stats on them individually.
Oh, okay. So how do you get your mount? Do you buy it or tame it, and then can your mount die?
At the moment, you just buy the item. It acts as an item. It cannot die at the moment, seeing as how it's just an item.
Yeah,
But
I guess
later
I meant
on,
for the future. Okay.
yeah, later on, yeah, your mount can die. You got to kind of park your mount at an okay spot.
Okay, I have 2 more questions for you. So this is kind of a weird one, but I'm wondering about for like more solo players. I know it's an MMO and you want teamwork to be a big thing, but how's that going to work? Like if you're not part of a guild, you're kind of a lone wolf. Can you just find random groups to tag with, or how's that going to work?
Yes, we definitely want players to, have that ability to find parties pretty easily. The biggest thing is player hubs, in my opinion, where players hang out, what players are doing in the hub. And the first and foremost thing that we're gonna do to encourage that social kind of gameplay is because everybody has to because like there's no point in not having a party at the moment other than like dividing loot. So when you're in town, you're gonna see people always looking for parties, especially when you're hanging out in the tavern. At the moment, the way the game works is that you have a stamina bar, and that stamina bar depletes over about 3 hours. So you got to carry food with you to keep that stamina bar up. If your stamina depletes to 0, you do die. Just like the way your health hits 0, you die. But nothing's gonna influence that stamina bar except just time in general. And in the future expansion, we do plan to have weather affect your stamina as well. But
Okay.
that's for a future. I'll touch on that another time. So with that being said, taverns in Astaria recover your health and stamina and mana over time, just for being inside it.
Can I ask something? You said stamina is like the way you said it made it sound like it's a hunger bar. Wouldn't that confuse people since stamina is normally used for performing certain skills?
I mean, it depends on how
Wouldn't
you look at it. It could
maybe
confuse
if you
people,
called
but
it wellness, this is just my opinion, but maybe if you called it wellness or maybe hunger.
I feel like after like 10, 20 minutes, you would understand what it does and you would know.
Yeah.
Are you
It
gonna
just
have
feels
any
weird though.
form of tutorial at the beginning of the?
at the moment there is a small tutorial. They're like tutorial quests you kind of spawn next to. It kind of like outlines a couple things here and there. It'll show you what to do and give you a couple of like test an example is like as soon as you log in the first like 5 tutorial quests, you'll learn how to first aid yourself, you'll learn how to eat food, and you'll learn how to combat.
Will there be an option to like go into settings and then open up like a how to play like interface where you can like look through several things like what this bar does?
At the moment,
Teamwork
there
combination.
isn't, but that's a good idea. I haven't even thought about that. Actually, I'll be real with you. That's a pretty good idea. Maybe we'll probably put in some kind of gameplay encyclopedia into the options menu. So yeah, that's
Also,
something we could probably do.
about the food thing, again, this is just my opinion, but you said that you die if you run out of stamina, right?
Yes, at the moment you just flat out die.
Honestly, I think it'd be better if it took your HP when you ran out instead of just dying immediately.
Like your health degrades?
Yeah, like it starts hurting you a lot instead of just killing you outright, like a second health bar, kind of.
Like, does your maximum health die, or like does your health just start going off a while? Because
you just flat out die at the moment. The way it works on the server originally.
You can make it where if you are hungry, you lose like 25% or 50% of your max HP. Like initially, like the bar itself is decreased, and have it where your movement speed is significantly slower, or have your attack speed more sluggish, so it makes people just stop grinding for a moment, head back to town, rest up, and come back.
Well,
That'd be a better option.
Well, the reason why it's like that is because at the moment you have a pretty good amount of time to be able to keep yourself fed, and so let's say you hit by the time you get back to town, you don't have enough. You definitely want to. The reason why it's that hardcore is because you want to plan around where you're headed, what you're doing around that, and especially with the supplies you have on you. So if you hit 0 in this game, it's pretty much your fault. You know what I mean?
If you're standing still or sitting down, would the hunger bar like slow down its speed, like its rate, or stay the same speed regardless
It's
if you
at the
run,
moment the same
walk?
rate. Like we'll probably revisit the system in the future to add checkpoints, but at the moment it just flat out kills you. I don't think anyone's actually gonna die to hunger per se. I mean, I never know.
We gotta test it out.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Are you ever going to implement diet?
Probably not. I don't want food to be like. Here's the thing about that. So there was a game I played recently, not recently, but maybe a year ago called Scum, and it kind of did that. And instead of being a gameplay element, it felt more like annoying. You know what I mean? So when it comes to food, we just want it to be just a simple bar that you have to keep up every now and then. The reason why it does this is so that way we don't want players to stay out in the world for one and consistently like farm stuff. And so the multiple ways to combat that was food, weight, and inventory space. So those were the three things that we're using to combat the, like especially farmers, gold farmers. Number two is we want players to feel a little more immersed in the world when it comes to like traveling between places. You want to be able to feel like, hey, this like we got a plan for our trip to this place. Let's pack like a stack of like bread or something, and that should be enough.
Cheese.
Yeah, and having a stack of bread
cheese wheels.
Having a stack of bread will extend the time that you can be out in the world from 3 hours to like 5 to 6 hours. So like that, it's really simple to actually keep yourself fed, so it's not annoying, but it's something that you definitely have to consider.
Another way you can. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask about the food. Is that 3 hours real time, or is that 3 hours in game?
3 hours real time. It takes about 3 hours real time in real life to keep yourself before you finally die.
So you, if I'm getting this correct, 3 hours, your stamina depletes. You go to a tavern. It takes how long to fill up? 5 minutes, you said?
I think it takes about 5 minutes. Yeah, it takes about 5 minutes, maybe like 5 to 6, depending on like because it's draining while it's going up, but it doesn't drain that fast. It's pretty slow on how long it drains.
Okay, so you spend 3 hours farming, go to tavern 5 minutes, and spend 3 hours farming again.
Yeah, essentially. And but here's the thing though, like you can take a stack of food with you. They usually go up to about 5 to 10, depending on like what kind of food it is. And taking just one stack of food with you is enough to double the time that you can spend outside of but maybe not double, especially in the early food. But when you get to like the medium tier, the mid tier foods that you can make or buy from NPCs, it can essentially double the time that you can stay outside the town.
Or just have a meal with all the food for you.
But that's how food's gonna work. There's one thing I can say is that even though food might not get more advanced, the first aid system might get a little more advanced. We want first aid to be the way you heal your health outside of combat. That way you're not using it like a ton in mid combat. You can still get away with it, maybe using it here and there mid combat, but between combat, we want players to rely on food and first aid to be able to bring themselves back up. Especially when you're going on like an expedition somewhere, like that'll take longer than 3 hours.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, since there's gonna be day and night cycles, how is the lighting gonna be different on like midnight, like nighttime? Would like NPCs that are walking around like pull out torches, or do you have to like have your own kind of lighting?
At the moment, NPCs will spawn next to lighting sources already in towns. They're on usually anyway, and so we don't have to worry about that. Lighting is so bad right now that I've disabled it on the server, so day and night cycles disabled at the moment. Here, let me bring this up. I'll actually put this up for everybody to check out. You can see it in the background, kind of.
So while you're doing that, real quick, I know you said that abilities won't restore stamina, but will there be abilities that deplete stamina from other players, so that way you can deny them that resource?
There will be no abilities will ever hit your stamina ever, unless, except for weather. We do have a planned weather system that'll affect your stamina. An example is when you're using when you're up in like the mountains or something and the cold hits you. That's actually going to drain your stamina faster than it would like if you're standing down on the ground over here. So that's something that's planned for stamina, but stamina will never they'll never get hit by an opponent. Like a monster will never inflict more stamina damage on. That way you can remain consistent in the way you plan for that. Let me answer the Altered's question right here real quick. So if someone gathered large enough guild and were a strong presence, would they get recognized by NPCs and such? Or mostly just a nameless person? I remember seeing the world emphasis on survival. Would they be recognized by NPCs and such? Probably not right away. As people do things, and for example, if you guys are the first set of players to enter the world and you do something really cool, or you're one of the first guilds to enter the server, on like the next big update that kind of changes things, you might see your guild get mentioned within like quest lines or within the story itself, or NPCs will see that. So yeah and no to that first part of that question. To the second part, I remember seeing the world emphasis on survival, so I'm wondering economy-wise if it would change anything, like a farm you want to own. It's not a big emphasis on the survival part, actually. I want to correct you there that there is survival elements, but it's not a big emphasis on it like the way like Ark or Rust has a big emphasis on survival. I still at the core of this game want it to be an MMO where you're having fun playing an MMO. I don't want it to be where it's like your dream MMO where like you can do almost anything you want. That's not what I'm trying to get at here with Astaria. So I hope everybody understands that, especially with the question earlier about the stealing from NPCs thing, stuff like that, especially with some of the stuff from Rust or Ark, probably won't be there. At least not until way later when we might be able to revisit certain elements. And even then, if it does get added in, then it's not going to be like totally great. It's an MMO still at its heart, and that's what I wanted to focus on first. So think of it as an MMO first, MMORPG with survival elements, but not like the survival MMO. I know some of you guys probably come from some like Atlas or something, but that's not what I want to get at. I definitely don't want to make it like that kind of style MMO.
Oh yeah. Speaking of stamina, would there be any form of healings that restore stamina or deplete stamina?
No, stamina will only get restored through food. So if you want to, you can trade food to other players. So in a way, you can kind of restore other people's stamina by just sharing your food with them. With that being said, different classes have different carry weight. Squires having the most, and there are two types of bags at the moment. There's one heavier bag that increases your defense and provides a couple more carry slots, while another bag doesn't increase your defense but increases your carry weight limit and a little bit of your slots. So there are ways to increase your slots. Yeah, so you'll be able to pick between different styles of bags, and they kind of have different effects on them. Let me show you guys a day and night cycle. If you don't know about it, Discord has an ability where you can kind of stream your screen. So I'll show you guys what I mean by a day and night cycle. It's disabled on the server right now, so it doesn't change, but it's there. I just don't think we're ready to use it, harness it per se, and so that's why I have it disabled.
I had a question.
Go for it.
About the stalls, about the horse item. Would there be like stalls to where your horse can be able to go, and when you trigger like the horse item, like as if it was a whistle, would it become like galloping towards you from like whichever stall would it be at?
This is no right now. I'll say no. There's nothing like that planned at the moment. The mounts, when we revisit it later, we'll probably have more details when we get closer to that. But because mounts are they're kind of a back burner for now, that like you'll probably visit a stable. I don't know if you ever played Black Desert Online. It'll be a little similar to Black Desert, where you can park your different horses to a stable master to that town, like specifically that town, and then having multiple horses in different towns will probably be a thing, or even quote unquote renting a horse temporarily for a certain time period will be a thing. But no, we don't have any plans for it yet until after we revisit when we get towards redoing the mount system. Because in the future, I like it where like mounts not only serve a logistical purpose, but we'd like it where mounts can also serve a combat purpose.
Okay, like would they be able to be leveled up, like in gaining speed or toughness?
Yes. So later on, you'll be able to equip. We'd like horses to have an inventory. I don't want to like say for sure yet because, like I said, we haven't gotten to the point where we're going to revisit mounts. But when we do, we definitely want mounts to have that purpose where you can kind of spec it to like be a little more combat oriented with like armor, and then slower acceleration or slower speed, or like a mount that you want to ride between areas with faster speed, more like mount stamina.
Yeah, like you could have like armor plating on it, or if you wanted to have like satchels on the side, or have like something that helps with like speed or something like that.
Yeah, because this game has such a big emphasis on logistics, I didn't want it where like you didn't have any option to move stuff around, especially guilds. This game has been designed for guilds with in mind that like moving stuff from town A to town B in preparation of like an expedition or a raid or something is something that we want players to do. So that's definitely like a gameplay element. For some people, that's annoying, I think. But for a lot of people, especially when it comes to like a more different hardcore MMO, it's definitely something we want. Turtle, can you actually change your mic to push to talk for me, please?
Oh, sorry about that.
Actually, now I think about it, would it be interesting to say like cities that are actually fully established to have like an NPC system similar to like Black Desert Online, where you can send like say a stack of materials to the front line, but not actually have your character there present. Say like you're crafting or helping a friend, but you like say your guild is in the front line and they need help. You could probably like send an NPC. Like it doesn't have to be an official one, but like a system where it sends it to the bank for them, but it takes a set period of time for it to reach them.
Oh, you're saying like a kind of like a delivery system?
Yes.
Maybe.
And it'd be varied based on the distance between one city to the other.
Maybe.
And it only can be limited to like official established cities.
At the moment, you can. At the moment, you can kind of cheat by depositing stuff into your bank and just accessing the bank from somewhere else, because banks and auction houses at the moment are global, but we'll change that later on in the future, where banks and auction houses are specific to their region.
Because it would be really neat to like have a system where we can just send an NPC or a delivery person like out there and have like, oh yeah, by the way, do you have this kind of wood in your
well, here's the thing. I want to move away from anything automated. An example of that.
It doesn't have to be automated, but more like, say you're busy crafting or helping a new friend, but you still want to like put some influence in the front lines. You can still bring it, but the thing is, after you send it, you can't say anything else for a long period of time. So it's like
that's still a form of like automation, and we're trying to. I'm trying to keep away from anything automated, especially when it comes to like moving items around, because at that point, everybody's be constantly using that system. You know what I mean? For that situation, it sounds nice to have, but because of that system, that means every player, especially guilds. I know there's a lot of people who metagame, and they'll be using that system constantly to try and make a profit, because certain items in certain areas have different values in other areas. And a big example of that is trade. There's a profession for trade in this game where it basically gives you access to daily quests that you can do, where you go and buy in bulk, or somehow get the item in bulk from one location, and it sells for like, I don't know, pretty cheap, and then basically take that item and then journey across the world to like another location, turn it in that quest to that or the trade quest to that NPC for profit, for like a marginal increase in profit. And so if we had that kind of system, people would be doing it. They would be going back to town to do it. So that's the reason why I kind of want to stay away from anything like that, especially with automation. An example of that is it sounds really great to have in BDO. When I played a lot of BDO, they had a lot of automated systems, and it sounded nice. It was cool, but if you weren't doing that automated system, you would start falling behind. And if you weren't if you weren't life skilling while you were out farming, then you'd fall behind. You know what I mean? It kind of emphasized that you had, and so I want to stay away from anything similar to that system, especially when it's automation.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one's just about guilds. I remember medium, small, big guilds, and then there were supposed to be ones to take over areas, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
How is that working?
So I can touch on the liberation system right now. It's going to take a little bit of time to touch on the liberation system. What we're going to do with it. Work on it has already started too. So it's gonna. This is mechanics of this isn't going to change too much for the liberation system. Give me 1 sec. I guess I'll leave this up for you guys to enjoy. I'll make it automated.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, will there be any like
Give me
videos on
one
certain
sec.
classes?
I will answer that. Hold that thought. Type it or something, and I will answer that question in just a second.
Yes,
I'm going to
take
touch on the
it.
liberations first before we move on to the next question. First question was or the question about the liberations. How does it work? So first and foremost is guilds are a big part of the game. They're not like, you don't have to join a guild, but it's a pretty big benefit to join one, because the way guilds are going to work in this game, they're not just like glorified friends lists like in a lot of MMOs. They have an effect. So when you join a guild, like for example, small guilds can teleport around the map pretty well, pretty fast. So they act as like you're really mobile as a small guild. When it comes to large guilds, you lose that ability. The more people you get after a certain threshold, you lose that ability. So there'll be a role for every size guild. So for example, small guilds can teleport and move around really quickly. This gives them that gives them the ability to, let's say, defend an area when it gets under attack instead of having to run there. And then I'll touch on that correlation in just a second. Medium-sized guilds have a similar ability, but at a much slower pace, right? But medium-sized guilds didn't have the ability to capture medium-sized territory, and they also get more benefits, other benefits they can specialize in. Large-style guilds lose the teleport ability, but have the ability to capture large-sized territories and gain benefits that, for example, they have an ability where you can tax 2% of like the earnings that everybody makes from like questing and monster drops. It doesn't take the actual 2%. It just adds on. It just takes 2% of what they make and then add it on top of into the guild bank. An example, and another is like logistics. Large and medium guilds have access to guild storage and the ability to kind of like large and medium guilds have the ability to deploy these like forward operating camps, kind of like a fob that lets you not only spawn there but also like repair your items or do other kind of things. So different guilds size have different kinds of benefits. So to answer that question that you, or not to answer the question, but to answer the statement that like people are going to make coalitions bypass the limit, even though let's say you're making like a 3 guild, coalition, right? You lose the ability to, for one, capture large territory, and for two, to deploy guild headquarters or like field headquarters. So different, sizes have different abilities and bonuses. And so if you make like a coalition of small guilds, you lose the ability that large guilds have. If anything, large guilds can field players better. They have bonuses to like be able to handle logistics way better. So I hope that answers that question about how the guilds work. So that way, each size of guild has a different kind of gameplay focus. And not only that, but you could also make guilds that aren't directly combat related. And examples like a guild that'll have the ability to kind of do start kind of specializing into different roles that aren't combat, like crafting, or like even just like a friend kind of mixture of both combat and crafting, like a small guild that does that. I mean, there's going to be a mix of different roles that you'll have for guilds. So based off that, territory in Astaria is going to be separated into 3 different types: small, medium, and large. And based on these sizes, there's going to be a demand for all 3. So some people are worried about like, what if a large ass guild comes into the game and kind of dominates everything? They're not going to be able to do certain things that small guilds can, and they're not going to be able to do things that medium guilds can. An example of that is if you're a large guild, you can only take large territory. You actually can't even take small or medium territory as a large guild. So there's always going to be a demand for all 3. And let's say you have a coalition of a guild that has 1 in each category, right? Even with a coalition of a guild that has 1 in each category, players who aren't in the medium guild aren't going to receive the benefits of being in a large guild, or players in the small guild aren't going to be able to respawn at a guild head or field headquarters that the guild deploys. They'll have to respawn at a regular area. So even if you have like an alliance system, it's still that emphasis that like each guild size has that specific ability. Any questions on that? I guess.
No questions. I think everybody's chill.
All right, cool.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was in push to talk. How do you actually take control of the Terry?
So So outline. There's a max player or max people in the stream thing. I didn't know that was a thing. How do I change that? I'm sorry. Let me figure out how to change that. It's okay. It's just day and night cycling anyway on the current client. So how capturing a territory works at the moment is the game revolves around these things called shards of power. Certain shards are different sizes that kind of define their control over different territories. And depending on the territory size, defines the health of the crystal. And for players, in order to capture that crystal, you have to hit and destroy the crystal. You're essentially destroying it, but you're not actually by lore destroying it. You're kind of destroying the influence that the darkness has on the crystal. And after you destroy the crystal, it'll respawn as like a friendly faction kind of crystal, it'll change mobs. And when it's a friendly faction crystal in that area, then the power of the darkness loses its grasp there. So they have to launch an assault to destroy your crystal. So you're basically essentially defending and attacking crystals in this game. Depending on the size, may have different objectives. For example, small ones may require you to go around to different areas and gather certain object that's spawned in the area, and then bring it to that crystal just to heal it or to make it vulnerable or reduce its armor. You know what I mean? So there might be certain different objectives for each territory specifically. So you guys will see a mixture of different ways to destroy crystals. One of them is going to be kind of similar to capture the flag, where you run from from like one crystal. You gotta get these objects that spawn next to a neighboring territory, and then bring it to that crystal to make it vulnerable. The enemy has to do something similar for crystals. They just have to DPS the health to 0. So you guys kind of have to play King of the Hill against the darkness on that crystal. But with that being said, the general will never actually directly attack the crystal. The general will stay back at a certain point where mobs will continue, darkness will constantly kind of flow out of and get towards and run towards that crystal, attack it. So when it comes to attacking a crystal, you do have to defeat the boss, like the general, the demon general guarding the crystal. Usually they're a little further away, and then for the actual crystal itself, you do have to destroy that. So there's be two kind of every capture and defend kind of mechanic. There's always that 2-part thing to it. You have to destroy the demon general, and also while keeping the crystal alive or destroying it at the time.
Oh,
Instead
yeah.
of large.
Now, I've already texted before, but would there be any issues? Say you're in a big guild and you're already on the plot of land. What would happen if there's a coup where half the guild disbanded? Would it immediately reduce it to a medium to a small guild, or would there be a grace period before they lose that plot of land?
I mean, we'll probably implement some kind of grace period, but with that being said, that's just the the light of it. You just have to meet the requirements. We'll probably have a small grace period, but not a big one. If that happens, that's not something that's part of the design of the game. That'll be part of your guild that you have to kind of make sure that's being done. You know what I mean? I don't think there's many mechanics I can do to prevent something like that from happening.
I know you guys were talking or put on the FAQ that you're not interested in implementing PvP stuff. Because the easy way to ask the question is why?
So the very first thing I can tell you right now is, with the design of the game kind of uniting community, is second we introduce PvP, even in a battleground kind of style, it takes away from, first off, the balance of the classes. We would have to introduce a layer of either balancing the classes to work in PvP, and to also then add in abilities that work for PvP, and then add in a layer of abilities that only work in PvP. And that just adds so much more resources and development into the game. 2 would be it takes away from the design of the game that I was really set out to do. I don't want PvP because it just reason 1 on top of reason 2 would be I guess it would just remove the design. It would, you know what I mean? United community, then you introduce world PvP. Let's take world PvP for example. Guilds would start griefing each other pretty hard. Let's say you're attacking an invasion area, right? You're invading a territory to grab the territory for yourselves, for the players. A rival guild would then come in and then kind of mess that up, and then destroy the whole emphasis behind it. Then you get guilds kind of going at each other, and then ignoring the original intent of the game that's to begin with. At that point, it devolves into just straight up PvP only. You know what I mean? And that sucks. I can see that going out because I play a lot of I actually am a big PvPer myself. I love PvP. I grew up on a lot of PvP MMOs. But that being said, because of that experience I have from PvP MMOs, I know for sure if Astaria were released with open world PvP, this game would diminish its population due to like certain guilds kind of controlling everything, and that would mess up the original design of having people work together.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in like implementing at least a PvP thing for like certain ways to gain territory, like a big, not loot PvP, but like just siege battle?
No, because something like that's already technically going to happen with the way the invasion events happen for the PvD aspect of the game. So there's no point in really putting in a PvP part of that. Again, that would take a lot of. That would go back to number one. We'd have to balance the classes around PvP also on top of PvE, and then number two, the development resources it would take to design a system like that just for PvP. Even though that's like not the main goal of the game, would slow down one development for the original intent of the game, and two it would definitely like it would definitely destroy the design. Again, that's probably the number one answers, or the number two answers is balance and destroying the design.
Point.
So like it'd be like, imagine if like the darkness is invading territory A, and then but half the server is too busy fighting each other. It would lessen the intent of the design of like, hey, you're working together, try and defend or attack the darkness. So yeah, it would.
Couldn't we have like something similar to like something competitive like racing? Like everyone like stands in a line, you start racing, or better yet, have like a card system implemented, like say like in a tavern, where you can just bet on stuff and use like randomized cards and just beat the other person. So it's like soft Hearthstones in a sense. Because I mean, it's not like very aggressive competitiveness, but it's like a.
How about I'll come back to you on that if Astaria blows up and we have like the extra development like time and resource to like be able to do stuff like that. At the very moment, I'd like to divert all resources to getting the game, the base design at least up. So like the liberation point.
Because one thing I would love to see is like an arm wrestle, same way as like
yeah, I see what you're saying, because it's a lot more immersive that way if you were to have the mini games at the taverns or just in towns in general. It's something to do while you're in town just to hang out. I can see that being like a thing, like an interest. Yeah, I can see that, but like I said, I'll come back to that later on in the future if we have the time for that. That's something that I'm open to. I'm definitely open to something like that. That's actually a pretty good idea. Just maybe not right away. maybe during beta we'll implement some stuff like that.
So let's say there's two large guilds trying to capture one large territory at the exact same time, but they're separate guilds. How do you dictate who actually takes it over?
At the moment, it'll probably boil down to who DPSs the crystal the most. That's what it boils down to at the moment. But with that being said, when you control a territory, there's actual no benefit other than deploying guild headquarters. The actual like benefit of resources and recipes is server wide. So because like it spawns, anyone can just go there and grab from the town, like the recipe from the NPC. Anyone can go there and do the quest. Anyone can go there and mine the resource. So there's no actual benefit other than having your name and the ability to deploy guild headquarters there.
And not to mention it costs resources like weekly
to upkeep.
or monthly.
Yeah, so it's kind of a pro and con. Like you kind of don't have to own territory in this game per se, but if you do, you can deploy. It grants you the ability to deploy headquarters. Now, the reason why we did this is because we don't want people to. We want guild headquarters to be a thing. Like I love the idea of guild headquarters. I don't know about you guys, but when WoW came out with garrisons, I was really disappointed in the fact that there was no guild garrison. You know what I mean? And so in the future, I'd like to have it where like players can. That's the guild hub that they can go to hang out. But I don't want it where there's like 8 different guild headquarters in one spot. So to counter that, we're gonna make it so it's like you can only control one, and there's a big upkeep to pay to keep it going. And there's only like small amounts of. There's pretty good amount of benefits actually. It's like kind of like a field place for you to like repair and respawn, and they'll have like a built-in tavern too. But that's the actually only benefit to capturing that territory. Otherwise, there's no monetary benefit to capturing the territory.
Oh, yeah.
That goes to the entire server.
Now that I'm thinking about it, Will there be some sort of like cosmetics for item models? Because I know you say you want to be uniform, but how are you gonna go forward with the item shop?
To touch on the item shop, I'm trying something different. The first and foremost is everybody's question is, will there be microtransactions? Yes. There probably will be. There's a chance there may not be any microtransactions at all. But with the fact that we're not really we're low entry barrier MMO, $20 is actually, in my opinion, is not that much to pay for an MMO, especially since in the future any updates or expansions we're going to release completely free of charge. There's no price to pay for it. I hate the practice of charging for expansions, because if you don't buy the expansion, it kind of splinters your population. And in a game where like you want players to unite together, we don't want to charge people for expansions. So the only other way to kind of fund future uh, expansions or just keep servers going is to have the ability for a microtransaction shop. This MTX is not going to be what you guys think it is. That's the first thing I'm going to say is there's going to be little to no cosmetics. I'll put this out there. What you pay for in the base game, I don't want you to feel like you have to drop like another $10 to change the look of your character. And I don't know about you guys. I know some people think that that's probably the best way to approach it, but I don't want to do that. We're not even selling EXP boosts. We're not selling any inventory increasers. Anything that you do in the game at all in terms of like progression is tied entirely to what you pay for in the beginning for $20. So I hope that kind of puts everybody at ease when I say microtransactions. I hate a lot of MMOs that kind of lock cool looking armor behind the microtransaction store. So when you're essentially changing your character look, you don't have to spend a dime. With that being said, there's going to be a couple of like outfits here and there, but not many. The microtransaction store is actually going to have what I call social transactions. That's a new thing that I'm trying out that I don't think many MMOs do.
You
And
could
an
do
example.
something. Sorry,
I'll let
you
you
could
I'll
do
let you go after this. Let me finish the description of what it's going to be, and I'll let you go. Or you can type it out in the chat. I'll read it out. Social transactions is basically you're going to be buying something that lets you be more social with the community. And that sounds a little ambiguous, but I'll give you an example. Is that like, let's say you pick up a profession of cooking, right? Some of you guys like are interested in the idea of being a cook, and so as a cook, let's say you want to make 50 sandwiches, and you want to hand it out to your guild or something, right? You'll be able to buy what you call a picnic basket recipe that lets you create a picnic basket um, that you can place on the ground, and it'll cost the same amount of resource as it would to create 50. It'll require 50 sandwiches or something. You know what I mean? It'll still require 50 sandwiches, so you're not getting like a free shortcut to make food. You're still gonna require that amount, right? Then after you craft that same resource amount with the item, you'll be able to place the picnic basket in the world, and any player can walk up and right click and take like a sandwich or something. And this is what I call social transaction. It's something that isn't like a huge benefit to anyone per se, but it's cool to have. So imagine you're a cook and you have that picnic basket, and you're in town, you're trying to recruit for your guild. You can then place that picnic basket and be like, dropping a picnic basket at in front of the tavern. Come check it out and check out our guild. We're a cool guild. You know what I mean? And it's a really cool show-offy kind of style. So that's an example of some of the microtransactions that we'll have in the game. And on top of that, it's not going to be more than like a couple bucks, like $2 or something for that. So we don't want players to spend a ton either.
I do have something to say about the picnic basket, though. Are you going to have some kind of like debuff or something where they can't take multiple sandwiches from the same picnic basket? Because there will be those assholes that will sit there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's going to be only one. Like each player can only interact it with one once.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I'm speaking of which, I forgot what game did it. It was where instead of like when you buy an item and you use it, like say you cast it, instead of being just yourself, it opens up like an event within the area. So it's like gathering resources or like special resources that are specified in the item itself. So it's not just you, but the entire community itself gets the benefit. And then there's like a
there's a thing. We are toying with the idea of having a subscription model to the game, like a $5 like not necessary subscription, but like like on top of it as like if you want to subscribe just to support the game. And based on one of the things we were talking about is having bonuses to that subscription, but the bonus doesn't necessarily apply to you. It applies to the entire server. So let's say like there's one subscriber online, right? He'll add like 1% drop rate, 1% experience bonus to everybody on the server. So let's say there's like 100 people with subscription on the server, right? It then essentially doubles the experience rate and drop rate. So I don't know for everybody, not just the people who are subscribed. So I got that idea from actually PlanetSide 2, where like people in squads can activate squad boosts and provide everybody in the squad the like increased EXP rates and such. I thought it was a cool idea, kind of nifty, but I didn't want it to where like it only applied to a party, because then if you apply to only a party or a guild, it'll essentially make it so you only want to join a guild full of people with that, or a party only of people with that, and it kind of gets a little fucky there at that point. So anything we want to try and give a benefit to, we want to give it to everybody. So that's something that we were considering, but we may not do subscription at all. We might stick to one or the other or both. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, I definitely don't want to do anything that gives a benefit. After 1.0 release and about maybe like 3-4 months down the line, we may introduce experience potions after way after release. Like the reason why we don't want to introduce experience points or anything like that right away is we wanted players to feel like the players who are on the leaderboards for like levels of experience. We wanted them to actually be there because they put the time and effort and skill into it, and not because they bought like experience potions like every hour of the game. You know what I mean? So does anyone have any questions about the microtransactions in that sense? And how about this? I'll just emote in the general chat with us. Did you like? Go ahead and just put a emote on that little general chat with a thumbs up or thumbs down if you liked it. If you think that's if you like what you heard basically off it.
Oh yeah, another thing.
The MTX system.
Yeah, the microtransaction. Though how I just explained how it's gonna work. Like there's not gonna be many cosmetics. There's gonna be some, but not many. And cosmetics actually aren't gonna be something that we sell a lot. We're not gonna sell a lot of cosmetics. And I know some people wanted to buy it.
Sorry, there's actually one thing I want you to explore, perhaps, because there's some MMOs which has transaction on emotes, but they're usually just dances and like little gestures. But it'd be really cool to see if you were to like make sitting emotes where it's personalized based on their character. So I say like you play like a rogue, which is like laying down very carefree with a dagger in hand or counting money, and then have like a squire that's sharpening your blade. It doesn't have to be an actual blade. It just has the motion of like sharpening with a flint, or then an acolyte just reading a book and being more immersed in it.
Selling emotes we may. That's possible.
It'd be really cool to see it happen because I don't know. It's always like it when people just sit down around like a campfire or tavern and just have like some unique emote that like basically gives personality to that character.
So for the microtransaction things, let's say the things that you sell, is that just like cosmetic things, or is that gonna boost like your gear that you wear on?
Nothing you buy from the microtransactions will ever like affect some kind of gameplay element.
So it's all gonna be cosmetics, just like how Final Fantasy has like
yeah, let's say you have like, if you're looking at the stream, let's say you have like the leather armor on right now, and then you equip a cosmetic over it. You're not gonna get anything different. You're just gonna look slightly different. That's really it. And even most of the cosmetics really, if let's say it does replace your armor, it's gonna essentially have the same stat as an item that you're getting if it does. You know what I mean? Let's see. Yeah. All right. Someone had a question. When you die, what happens? Do you go back to town? Be a ghost? You respawn back in town, and you lose all your items on you, both equipment and inventory.
Alive or like as a ghost?
As alive. You don't need to run back to your body.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, will there be some form of like cover gear or starting gear when you start?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's starter gear that's binded to you. Yeah, you don't lose it.
Is it? I remember back in EQ, the original EQ, if you died, you had a corpse that was left, and all your equipment would be on the corpse, and you had to run back and loot what you could. Will it be something like that when you drop everything?
We do plan to have eventually work in corpses for players, but at the moment it's not working as intended. So we just make it so it's just flat out destroyed. But yeah, you'll be able to run back to your corpse later on and grab the gear that you dropped.
Okay, because I know there for, it actually got to be, it was almost a guild thing sometimes, depending on where you died. Sometimes you had to get a couple guildies to help get you back so you could get your gear, so I mean, it was.
You definitely got, like, that's probably going to be a necessity when you're like, when you die in higher level areas. You're definitely going to need people to kind of help guide you back into your body. So yeah, the only thing is that, like, the way equipment drop's going to work is that, like, we wanted players to experience the feeling of equipment drop on death, but we don't want it where, like, the rate that everybody gets their gear back from their body is 100%. You know what I mean? We want to make it so, like, are you going to debate whether it's worth trying to go back there or if you can even go back there at all? That way we can take equipment out of circulation entirely. So we wanted to make it so it's a mixture of both. You have a chance to get your gear back, and at the same time, if you die in like an area that's like way too hard to get to, then it's not worth the trouble. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Twitch had another question. Does each class have a skill tree? Kind of. So at the moment, you linearly learn skills as you level up. You automatically learn the skill if you hit a certain level. But there's something that I actually haven't touched on that we'll see is that our discipline system. So let me see if I can pull it up. We have a discipline system that we're gonna be that I'll be bringing out, and this is how you're gonna customize your character. So I know everybody here loves the whole idea of like classes and such, and we wanted players to kind of mix and match everything based off that, like making your own, kind of like how Path of Exile has their own build system with like the little spears and such. So we're gonna have something of our own, and it's not going to be the same system as what Path of Exile has, but I'm going to show you guys real quick what some of our systems. Basically, how it works is that it's kind of similar to a perk system, where you'll be able to pick certain traits, I guess, or disciplines, and add points into them. And these points will then unlock, naturally give you a certain benefit to your character. And certain disciplines you can learn as any class, and certain disciplines are only locked to certain classes. And let me pull it up real quick. And let me try to find an example of one of the disciplines we have. And one of the disciplines we have is like what's called? Here it is. Did I find it? No, I didn't find it. Because I know people like to make their character fit their play style, and so I don't like it where everybody feels the same. I know people here have probably played World of Warcraft or like other MMOs where like you always felt like you're kind of forced into this must use build. You know what I mean? Like the talent tree from World of Warcraft's cool and all, but you're using this build that everybody uses. You know what I mean? And so we're gonna try and go away from that. Let me show it to you guys.
Yeah, Risk. When it came out there, it was a fun game, but then it got to where if you didn't have a specific build, you couldn't get in groups.
Yeah,
because you had to have the optimal build.
So with the way certain builds work in this game, so an example is like you'll have access to 10 points to put into what you call a discipline. You'll be able to, or you'll have up to 30 points to put, but each discipline only takes up to 10 points. At certain breakpoints in that discipline may unlock a really cool passive or an ability. An example, if you're looking at the stream real quick, or I'll even link the doc or take a picture of the doc just to show you guys.
So disciplines level individually from your character level, is that true?
Yes. So it will level individually. It'll actually be tied to the main quest. Oh, okay. So as you're doing the main quest, you'll unlock points. The main quest will reward you with points up to 30. It'll be pretty easy. It'll take you about like anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours to do. and you'll be able to unlock all the points within 4 to 6, maybe less than that. I'm not sure how long it's to take, but about around that time. And an example is like if you have Valiant on like a Squire, you add 1 point, it gives you 10 health and 1% threat for every point that you add, up to 10 points. So at 10 as a Valiant like Squire, you'll have extra 100 health, an extra 10% threat, and then at like let's say level at 0.5, you'll get like a passive where every time you get hit, you get a bonus like 1% threat or something. You know what I mean? And at like at 0.10, you'll get like a really good passive where you just flat out get 25% more threat. And so that's an example of like the discipline tree. You'll be able to pretty much divvy out your points as much as you like. You have 30 points, go ham, add it to wherever you can pick up. With that being said, disciplines are not unlocked automatically. You do have to go out in the world and find most of them, and certain characters will have disciplines unlocked innately. An example is like obviously the Squire starts off with Valiant, so you'll be able to add points into Valiant right away because it's tied to your role. But let's say you want attack speed, right? And let me look for one of the names that's tied to attack speed. Let's say you want, or well, we'll use
Celerity or Clarity, whatever that is.
Ferocity. I think Ferocity might be the one that was or I don't remember. I think it's Ferocity. Let's say you're a Squire and you want more attack speed to generate more threat from attacks faster. So you can then add 5 points in Valiant and then 5 points in Ferocity, and now you have Valiant and Ferocity as your disciplines, and that helps you tank better because you have the health and threat from Valiant, and you have the attack speed from Ferocity. And each point into Ferocity will get you like 1% attack speed or something. And at breakpoint 5 for Ferocity, you'll be able to unlock a passive where the more you attack, the more attack speed you get. And so you'll be able to kind of divvy out these different passives and abilities to different things, and that's going to be our way of making it so you can customize the way you play.
Okay.
And certain classes will have different types of access to different disciplines. So some disciplines are available to everybody, and some will be available to different characters.
Are these in game or coming later?
This is not this. Some of it's in game, but majority of it's not going to be ready till post launch, or not post launch, but post early access launch.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have other questions?
Will there be any case of game stages? Because you've been mentioning that you want to find people who are like not like community based, but like people get paid for.
Can you repeat that question? I'm a little confused here. Can you
I believe you mentioned something about game stages, like community managers, where like people in game manage like community wise, but you don't want players who are part of a community like for free, but instead you want like qualified or paid people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me answer that. So Astaria is officially already a company listed in California, and the way we're going to be tackling positions like that is we're going to approach it like exactly as it would like a job. And so we don't want it to approach it where like it's something that someone could do for free like here and there, because at that point it gets really messy with the way certain things go, especially with like a game master, right? We don't want a random player to be a game master, because let's say he then hooks it up with for some people or abuses his power, and if it's a free player, it's not much we can do about it. But if it's a person who's employed under our company, it's totally different story and legality behind it. So that's how I'm going to approach it. I take it very seriously when it comes to something like that. So I don't want to have to go down that route with Astaria, because I've seen games where that's an issue, even real ones. This mostly happens in private servers because of like, it's free. People don't. It's not actual jobs. But I've seen this happen in real retail games where GMs aren't really are abusive, of their powers. So I don't want to go down that route. I want to be able to hold the power. I want to be able to have the legal power to do something about it.
All right, cool.
So that's probably why you won't see like, let's say it's an actual job posting or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Also, another thing I want to ask is, when will we have any introductions to certain classes? Because it's been a long time since we actually seen some classes in action. Like, for example, Acolyte was still brand new before the last on the last test we had.
In the coming weeks, in the coming week on the next load test, you'll have access to all the classes to play with. based on the load test and what we do in after post launcher load test, we'll probably we'll probably have videos up on the YouTube channel, and we'll finally have a trailer up where it'll actually look, we're gonna replace the crappy April trailer that we have on the Steam page and everything else.
Still have the same video from like a year back.
Oh, I know. I just haven't bothered trying to redo the Steam, but I actually have some help with the Steam page now too, so we'll go from there. Let me go back to Twitch's channel, or I do damage's channel question. How big is the development team? Pretty small. Very small. By small I mean like it's me, the moderators, one developer, and that's it. And then we have one graphic designer, and we might have another one soon. He's actually in the channel right now. I might invite another person to the graphic design department, but after the game's out, we may expand. We're probably going to expand actually. Like the part of the Steam thing is that like I don't have to pay out of my own pocket to like fund development, because like parts of the game we contract out or purchase assets from the Unity asset store as placeholders and such. And I would like to replace everything as much as we can with our own in-house stuff. And in order to do that, it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Right.
The most expensive part of game development isn't actually the coding or anything like that. It's actually the like 3D assets, the like the models, the animation. That's actually really expensive to get done. Like one model can cost anywhere from like $600 to like $2,000 to get done.
Holy
and
shit.
That's just like one model. And you know what I mean? So we don't. I want to wait till after Steam release in order to like replace things like that. But with that being said, functionally, I want the game to function first before we do anything like that. Before we start spending money on anything like that at all.
Do you have any in-house testers?
I do have a couple in-house testers, but they're not exactly in-house, like officially on the staff. They're actually just more like real life friends that come over, and I tell them like, hey,
play MMOs.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't play MMOs.
Which really bothers me.
But the thing about it, it's good and bad. It's good in the sense that like the feedback they give me will help people who don't play MMOs to get into Astaria. But at the same time, there's obviously things that they miss out on. But that's why I have you guys to do the load test and do the early access.
Give us the game now. We will break it for you.
You're right. I will break it. And we were right in assuming that he plays the game.
He
plays the game at home by himself and just chills.
We would be sure to crash.
I don't even
in the first hour.
Like if you're looking, I don't even have to send you guys the game to break it. Like I can just break it like just by having it on. But okay, I'll move on to I do damage's next question. I think, did you have another one? No, you did.
I think that was it. Thanks for answering all of them.
Okay, no problem. Fire Dude had a question. How in depth will items be for the game? Like, would I want to be a roles, but I wouldn't want to be stuck over there. The item system goes up by tiers. There's right now eventually there's gonna be about I think 9 tiers. Let me double check. I don't want to say one or the other. Let me double check. It's about 8 or 9 tiers or something like that. And on early access up to about beta, it's gonna be a 5 tiers. You'll have access up to Mithril, which is the highest tier possible at the moment. And each tier that gets released after that is going to be, first off, hidden. And second off, won't probably happen until beta. So we're not going to introduce any tiers after Mithril until beta.
Speaking of which, one thing I don't like about certain crafting in some MMOs is that there's some recipes that are gained by in-game bosses, which is next to impossible to attain for some crafters, since crafters tend to like stay in town for long periods of time, or gathering and not really in the front lines. So how are you gonna address this?
Okay, so number of things to go about that. First is I'll get to that in a second after I answer Fire Dude's question. So type that out in the general chat. I'll get to it. I don't want to ignore Fire Dude's question. Basically, the item system isn't full. It's not like in depth. Like it's not in depth in a sense that like you have to do all sorts of things to make an item. It has enough depth where like the demand, the design decisions behind Astaria. There's a big demand for items to be crafted by players. So you can actually just focus on crafting mostly, sit in town, make stuff, and do pretty well at playing Astaria. But with that being said, you still have to eventually venture out and gather these resources and make the item. And you're not just making the highest tier possible every single time you unlock it. You're actually constantly making all sorts of different tiers based on the demand of like the community. So the reason why the reason why there's always a demand for low level items is that like items drop on death. For one. For two, there's an upkeep with items. So certain players may not always be using the best tier because it's not efficient to use the best tier all the time. So depending on where you go, you might use like steel instead, just because it's cheaper than like using like your best mithril armor. And you also risk losing the mithril armor if you die out with it. So there's like a really high risk, high reward kind of style gameplay here. With that being said, it creates a dynamic where crafters are always creating all different tiers. That way, you're not focused on just a lot. I hate a lot of MMOs that do this, where you're always making the highest tier possible. The person had the next question. Go ahead and type it. I think someone had a question. Or Fire Dude, you wanted to?
I just wanted to say the one thing with what I meant by in depth was just if there was going to be like a big variety of things that can be made. And I think I understand what you're going with the tier system for it. Just because I played like a lot of RuneScape back in the day, and so I like the idea of having just a bunch of different like skills and stuff that you can go off and you can go find a bunch of different resources. So just like having the ability to actually find those resources and not be limited to like 2 or 3 resources that you're only going to be using those the entire time, basically.
So the first 3 tiers of from bronze to steel, you can pretty easily do it by yourself. Anything higher than that, you can still do it by yourself if you buy or get the item somehow from the auction house, or just from other players in general. We wanted anything past tier 3 to involve monster cores, or like kind of like, well, that's what we're calling it for now. That's actually the placeholder name. The name of it will change later on. But these cores that drop off monsters have no value to them at the moment. But we want players to kind of find their own value, and so we wanted players to. This will probably tie into our Airvase question. Is that like the first 3 tiers? We want players to craft and do by themselves. Anything past beyond that to tier 5, from between 4, 5, and 6, I think it is, or no, I think it's just 4 and 5. That we don't want players to be able to just gather by themselves, because if that's the case, it'll create a really big inflation of that gear. You know what I mean? Of the higher tiers. So in order to keep the value of the higher tier sets and their power, we have to introduce some kind of catalysts and time, I guess. So you can still technically, you don't have to go into these areas to get it yourself necessarily. You can always just have a supplier bring it to you. Like for example, if you're a crafter and you need these catalysts, you can just have like a player from your guild or like a friend bring it to you, who's like a combat player who goes out and gets these in exchange for like some money or some other stuff. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, thanks for answering my question.
No problem. Aravi said something about, this is going to touch on Aravi's question, is about MMOs made it where endgame boss have the best recipes. With the recipes themselves aren't necessarily the rarity of them. The recipes are still like rare and locked behind certain areas, but anyone can get it as soon as it's available. So I hope that answers your question and kind of alleviates a little bit of your concern there. Recipes aren't really the big deal. You can kind of eventually get it. Like for example, is once a territory has been taken, and let's say it unlocks the quest to do tier 5 recipes, anyone can go there and just grab the tier 5 recipes quest line, just do it. And then as for the material itself, we do have to gate the high end materials behind group play. The actual like ore to get it, you still get that on your own solo. You just need to be able to sneak by monsters guarding these high end areas, or just get them luckily. So it's the monster core that we wanted players to kind of value when you're a higher level or the higher tier set, and so you'll be able to get those by either having a supplier or buying them from the auction house. So I hope that answers your question, Aravi. That like the first 3 tiers are going to be soloable, but in order to create that rarity in the higher tiers, we do have to gate it behind either group content or a large amount of time. So most of the combat will be open world field versus monsters, not dungeons instances that respawn. There will be no instance farming in Astaria. So someone someone asked me that, like, well, what dungeons or how many dungeons Astaria have and what. There's actually no instance dungeons in Astaria. Everything you go to, like let's say it's new loading screen to you find like a cave or ruins, you go in there, it's gonna be open world. You might encounter like a totally different party in there that's already in there and clearing and killing monsters. You can go in there and sit there and farm it. When they respawn or so, or like we wanted the whole thing where like the guilds are kind of like lining up to do things in areas and such. And we didn't want it where like your guild goes into an instance dungeon and farms that repeatedly. You know what I mean? That kind of takes away from the original design intent of Astaria. And so I don't want to make farmable instances. That's not a thing. With that being said, someone mentioned Tomb of the Gate King. That's going to be the first expansion set for or expansion for Astaria. Tomb of the Gate King is going to be a multi-floor open world dungeon, and what it is basically has multiple. It's going to be about this like half the size of the actual in-game world. That's how big that dungeon's going to be. It's going to have multiple floors. It's going to be different like mazes and such. There's potential that some rooms won't even ever be discovered for like a year in that dungeon. I'll touch more on that later if someone wants me to, but I want to go through the questions first before we run out of time here. I extended this, I guess, a lot longer than I thought I would. What is the level cap on crafting? Right now, the level cap on crafting is 1 to 100. For gathering, 1 to 100 takes a lot longer than crafting 1 to 100. And the reason why we did that is because gathering doesn't have any higher tier craftings. Or higher tier gathering professions, you just get 1 to 100 mining and that's it. As for crafting, there's higher tier. It's kind of like the class advancement system for crafting, where you can advance into different kind of special roles. And what it doesn't necessarily make you craft better items. It just gives you recipes that usually is more efficient. An example is like, let's say you're a weaponsmith, right? And you finally hit level 100 weaponsmithing, right? By the way, that there's one thing that's outdated on that crafting profession list, and blacksmith has been separated into armorsmithing and weapons. It's no longer just blacksmith. Anyway, so let's say you're weaponsmithing tier 1 and you get 100. You can then do a quest line that unlocks a tier 2 version of weaponsmithing, like bladesmith, and lets you make anything related to the blades at a much cheaper value. Like instead of 3 bars, it'll be 2, or you know what I mean. And so that way we make it so that way you're not pigeonholed into trying to advance tiers constantly. And we wanted players to feel like you can kind of specialize in the role of your crafting profession. You kind of you basically revert from crafting. You just don't really you just use less materials for the same product. And in the end, I think that's a good payoff. I think that's a good way to kind of approach it. Are others able to see your crafting level? Not at the moment. There's no way to actually show off your crafting level at the moment, but there is a way to there's a leaderboard that you'll be able to see in game of like who has like the. Sorry, I think my headset just died, so I had to plug it back in. Yes, it's not gonna. There will be a leaderboard that you can see. So you won't visually see it in the game, but you can probably visit the website or in-game menu that pulls up the leaderboard for like crafting and stuff. Yes, Steam release date is likely. Actually, there's one thing though. It falls on the lunar sale, and I just received an email yesterday from Steam saying that I have to push it back like a couple days. Like I think it's like the lunar sale ends on the 27th or something like that. Let me go back and check the email real quick.
I think the lunar sale's the 17th, right?
Yeah, it's the 17th. I'm not allowed to bring it out. It runs from the 23rd to the 27th.
Oh yeah, 23rd.
So I can't. I have to either put it before the 23rd or after 27th. So I'm probably gonna do it after the 27th. So I wish they told me this before, because they told me this during the same thing happened during the winter sale, and they're like, hey, you gotta move it. You can't release it during winter. I was like, all right. So yeah, it is definitely it probably either the 28th or something like that. Probably. I'll probably push it 20th. But with that being said, remember, Steam release date is very different from early backer release date. So early backer is probably still going to be 24th. How's working with Steam been? Oh man, it's actually been mostly good. It's just these things that happen where like they send you an email and they're like, hey, you can't release your game on this day. That's when it gets really fucking annoying because I wish they just block it out on the calendar for you to look. You know what I mean? Like it's just on the. So how it works is I select on the calendar what day to release, and I wish they would just block it out for me instead of sending me an email like a couple days prior or like you see it's on the 7th, right? I'm glad they sent me an email this time on the 7th. But the last time they sent me the email, like I think 4 days prior, and then I had to change it, and then I changed it over. Like I replied to the email on Friday, and then they ended up, they don't work there on the weekend, so they didn't change it till the following Monday. That was fucking annoying. But that's my only issue. There will be another test. Yes, there's gonna be one more test before the release of Astaria. Pretty soon. Pretty soon. I just, like I said, I'm not gonna say a date. I'm just gonna toss the server at one day and then just announce it on Discord and send emails out.
We're more interested in a test release than the actual game release.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally understandable. I'm actually gonna close the stream here in a second and wrap this up.
Oh yeah. Hey.
I'm gonna dip in 8 minutes, so I'll let you guys go ham questions in the general chat. Unless everybody else is done asking questions.
Also, how's your sleep schedule?
It's actually been all right. It's actually been pretty decent. I woke up at like 7 a.m. this morning, so I got yelled at by my girlfriend for having shitty sleep schedules. How was my LAN? I actually didn't go. I actually didn't even go to my LAN party. I ended up going to like just a countdown party with other friends. Yeah, I know. I feel bad too. I wanted to play. There's been so many games I wanted to play lately. Like I really wanted to do Divinity Original Sin when it was on sale. But
have you played Outer Worlds yet?
I haven't even played Outer Worlds yet, and I heard there's a way to play it for like $5 or something like that by doing like the Microsoft thing. So I've been really fighting my need to want to pick these up to play them. My girlfriend just got me a Switch for Christmas too, so I really want to start Breath of the Wild, and I have it. I just haven't touched it because I know if I do, then I'm gonna like soak all my time into it.
Do it once the test starts.
No, I think I'm just gonna wait till like March or like April to like finally start a lot of these things. I do plan to start Final Fantasy VII in March. I'll do like a live stream of it or something. Any other questions, guys? Comments or at all? Like you guys can drop whatever you like. Feedback, what you like, what you don't like. Any?
Oh yeah.
Compliments.
I
not
remember
compliments,
there was like leatherwork, cloth, and plated leveling. How does that work in particular? Because would it be better if you wear one piece of each piece of armor to level each one as the same pace, or does it increase it faster based on if you were full plated?
That's been removed. You don't level up anything when you wear armor anymore.
All right.
So you don't really have to worry about leveling up anything. Once you have the armor on, it works just as intended.
So the last time I spoke with you, you were having some IRL problems. You okay? And did you ever get a better laptop? Or a laptop in general, I think is what you were trying to get?
Yeah, no, I finally got a laptop, and it helps a lot because then I could kind of work on the go whenever I need something to happen. And yeah, no, things got a lot better. I had some issues with my girlfriend's not a really good driver. I'll put this out there.
I mean, to be fair, you've been working on this game for well over a year nonstop, and then she's like, "Okay, hold up."
No, it's not that. My girlfriend got into a car accident, and like she's okay. Like it's just she was at fault, and so her car got totaled, and so we had to figure out how she's gonna get around, and so we had to get her. We're probably gonna we bought like a beater car, and so we're planning to buy another car that's like not a beater car because she commutes pretty a lot to school, so it's kind of shitty if we keep at that. This is gonna be a big money sink.
So, and I like joined 10 minutes ago, but it looked a whole lot better than when I joined. What was that, the second test that you did?
Yeah, it's much better now. It's been optimized quite a bit too. So I'm telling you, man, it's been hard. All right, let's read the next one. I'll read the next one. How will gathering set resources will work? Despawning nodes. So nodes at the moment, resource nodes, when they spawn, they're always in the same location. When you mine it, it disappears for a set amount of time. Anywhere from like 5 minutes for like bronze and like and such to like 2-3 hours for like the high end resources. With that being said, when you gather, you're gonna get a scrap. You're always guaranteed like a scrap version of that resource, and you have a chance at getting a full resource. And with a certain amount of scrap, can convert into a full resource. That way, it's gated behind getting resources is gated, but not by a whole lot. And you're not feeling like you're gaining nothing every time you hit a resource. There was two ways to approach gathering. Either we make it so you get nothing at all, and you have a chance at getting the full resource, or you get a scrap and you have a chance of getting the full resource instead. And so we wanted to go with the one where you get a scrap because we didn't want it where like, you're kind of fucked. Is there a way to increase your chance of getting full resources? No, there currently is not a way to increase the chance of getting a full resource. It's going to be the same no matter what. Different tiers have different chances at this, too. Tools required. Yeah, there'll be a tool requirement, but it'll be very simple. Just carry a pick. It just takes up an inventory slot, like a pickaxe or like a skinning knife. There's no requirements on tiers of the tools for now. There's just one tool, and that's all you need.
So you're saying I can't punch trees?
No, you're not gonna punch trees.
Oh.
I actually don't. I don't like that. I actually don't like the whole like survival. I don't know. I don't like survival element in MMOs. Ever since I played Atlas, it left a bad taste in my mouth.
You mean the game I'm currently playing that got a lot better? But I'm not on official anymore. I can't do official anymore.
Oh, okay. Because like at the beginning of that game felt like I was playing a survival game than an MMO, and I wasn't a fan of that.
Bro, where's my rock at? My legendary rock. That's what I want. Come on.
Go fishing. Where's my fish?
Okay, hope that answers the question about the node or the thing. That Sock said our class is restricted to professions, so a mage won't be a weaponsmith. Certain professions are locked to certain classes. At the moment, alchemy is tied to only the chemist, and they can only pick up one extra profession. And then enchanting is going to be tied to mages. Other than that, all the other ones are available to everybody else. I think it's okay if a mage can get like weaponsmithing, because like weaponsmithing isn't necessarily like something that you need like an attunement for. It's just something that you need to hone over time. So I eventually reached the conclusion that smithing isn't something that we need to like lock from other classes. Or certain, you know what I mean? Any fishing added in yet? Fishing's not in yet. I'll be the first to say that fishing hasn't been added in yet, but it will get added in later. It has not been on. We needed the equipment crafting first, and then the supply being.
Can I still dual wield wands?
I
don't know if you remember.
I actually don't even think we put in wands yet, so probably not. But we probably will put in wands, and you'll be able to dual wield the wand. Yeah, eventually you'll be able to dual wield the wand.
Can I play as a sword hero? Shield hero.
Can I be shield hero? Oh, bro, can we be shield hero?
Dual wield shields.
Kind of. So there's a tier 3 class that's being planned for the knight that can I think it's the sentinel. Let me double check. Yeah, it's a sentinel. The sentinel's gonna get the only class that has access to tower like these massive titan shields, and you basically don't really do much with your main weapon. You do almost everything with your titan shield. So in a way, you can kind of be a shield hero.
I kind of might want to switch over from acolyte to fucking shield boy. I don't know now.
We need a shield army.
I mean, here's the thing: you can use shields on almost every character. You just don't really have the actual block ability unless you're a squire.
Oh, yeah, but I kind of want the freaking huge shield, man.
Well, you get the huge shield, and I'll double wield my wands, and we'll play drums together. I got this.
Oh, broski, let's go. Let's make some good music.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, will there be like certain unique types of shields, like light shields and heavy shields, similar to like Skyrim or some other MMO, where light shields are more of like wisdom or mana boosting, and then for heavy shields, more for vit and defense?
So at the moment, there's two types of shields: there's bucklers and full shields, or regular shields. Bucklers actually provide a small amount of evasion and physical resistance on also. Full shields do not provide any. Actually, reduce your evasion and give you a massive boost in physical resistance. So tanks have the ability to kind of go evasion builds or like mitigation builds with either of these shields.
Yeah, speaking of which, will there be any kind of armor mitigation where it's like if your weight of armor is so heavy it counters it? So like say like a monster use a skill that really throws weight in the equation, or better yet,
attacks in the future the formula for some attacks in the future will take weight into the equation. Like for example, in the future, we do want weight, like multiple variables for like the actual damage you deal. So yeah, but not at the moment. At the moment is entirely based on your total weapon damage. At the moment, when it comes to actual weapons and stuff and staff to use for any casters, you actually don't get any like magical power benefit from equipping a staff or a wand, but you do get a huge mana benefit. And in this game at the moment, mana is a pretty big deal because there actually is no mana regen at all other than drinking water.
Speaking of which, does different classes have different weight capacities or races?
Yes, different classes do have different weight capacities. Squire being the most, and I think I can't remember, is the Acolyte or I think it's the Acolyte or the Archer that has the least amount.
Why the fuck does the Acolyte have the least, man? I can't wear my heavy armor with some shitty ass if I'm out here walking like stiff, man.
No, we're chugging in our blue Kool-Aid, man.
Then you're gonna want to increase your weight capacity by equipping backpacks that specialize in increasing your weight capacity.
Alrighty. Also, question about disciplines.
Sure.
I remember earlier, the first discipline you spoke of was it had threat 1%. Threat is like for enemies?
Threat is for the points that you generate. Like for example, a auto attack will generate like 1 or 2 points of threat. So if you had like 1% threat, it'll add 1 point, like 0.1 instead.
Shit, that's not good. I wanted more health, but I'm a hilly boy, so more things coming towards me doesn't.
I mean, it's the ranger's fault for doing too much DPS.
Well,
there is other disciplines that increase your health. That wasn't the only one. That was just an example one. There's gonna be multiple for each one, and some aren't even tied to certain characters.
Are there ones that increase weight capacity?
There will be one that increases your weight capacity, but not by much.
That's perfectly okay as long as I can wear my heavy armor and be cool.
You mean any class can probably wear it? Like for example, heavy armor won't take more than like 500, maybe 600 weight capacity, and everybody has above like at least 17 to 1800. So you'll be able to wear it and still carry some stuff. But the difference between heavy and like medium and light, like medium will go up to like maybe like 250-ish, and light will only go never beyond 60.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So never mind, I forgot my question. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Will there be any armor bonus? So if you wear 5 pieces of cloth, will there be like any soft bonus, or
nope?
You just wear whatever you like.
You just wear whatever you like. There won't be any. You can mix and match if you like. I did want to go with that because I feel like bonuses will kind of force a meta game, and at that point you may as well just equip a whole set. You know what I mean?
So there'd be no point in like defense, yield, weight at that point.
Yeah, because you're already considering a lot of variables when it comes to armor. There's certain armors that have special unique properties to them, like certain tiers. And examples like if you're wearing the silver armor or obsidian, they have unique properties. You definitely need to have at least silver armor to go into the Emerald Forest right now. If you step into the Emerald Forest, you take a certain amount of damage over time, and with silver armor, it negates that effect almost completely.
So it's like Legend of Zelda, where if you go into a thunderstorm with iron weapons, you get struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So, I got a question. Are the gloves or greaves are they separated? And if so, is there a white glove that I can wear?
Yeah, they're all separated, and there probably is a white glove somewhere. I think there is. Yeah, it's so the slots right now. The slots right now are gloves, chest, shoulders, head, pants, and boots. I don't think we're gonna do belt. We're probably not gonna do belt.
Oh, bro, what if my pants fall down midway through fight? Come on now.
Also, what would be the looting system? Would it be like a greed and need system or a free for all?
At the moment, it's free for all and roll. Like you kind of just roll. If you whatever you set, have it set to.
Oh yeah, Sock is asking what's in the supporter package.
You know what's in the supporter package? It didn't change much yet, but I'll go into detail more about it. We're just gonna add more. We decided to just go with what we have now, and then we'll just add more later. And we're gonna discontinue supporter packages. Actually, we're just gonna meld supporters into honored later on. Like, but everybody who has a supporter package that didn't get honored, you're just gonna get supporter only benefits. And then we're just gonna remove supporter packages from being able to buy them to just only buying the honored. All right.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
So my honored becomes useless, or
no, it doesn't become so. So here's what we're planning to do. Everybody who's honored, you still have honored. If you have a supporter package, you're not gonna get moved to honored. You're still gonna get your benefits, but we're gonna discontinue selling the supporter package, and then just meld the supporter benefit into buying just the honored package. You know what I mean?
Will there be an in-game bug
So
report system?
no, there'll be an outside of the game bug report system. I think we make it in game, and so, let's say you crash, it just wouldn't really make any sense.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But yeah, that's what we're planning to do with supporter. We're probably gonna discontinue selling it because I don't see a point in selling two packages like that. We're just gonna do just the honored package. But
how are you gonna address AFK players are turn AFK? Would they be sent out of the game, or we just allow them to stay on regardless?
you can stay on regardless, but you gotta keep in mind your stamina drains over time. So if you're not at your computer and you're not eating food, then there's really no point in being AFK online at that time.
So in other words, you're gonna die.
Yeah, unless you're
you
AFK
stay in a
at time.
tavern.
Which case
Stay in a tavern
that's
AFK.
perfectly fine with me too. You can AFK in a tavern if you like. I mean, I don't see it being a negative thing at the moment. AFKing in the tavern. If it becomes an issue where there's too many people in a tavern and it becomes like lag fest, we might make it so like when you go into the tavern, it's completely different. Like not necessarily loading screen, but it'll unload everything around you when you're inside a tavern or something. Or make it so we'll have multiple taverns in towns where there's like there's one tavern here and one tavern there at this entrance. So you'll be able to have access to different ways to go about that.
Also, will there be like random prefixes to certain weapons that you craft? So
nope.
If you say craft a sword, it'll be different from the second time you craft it.
Nope. I do know. I can say for sure that right now we're gonna try and avoid that kind of RNG system. I didn't want to do random prefixes. Prefixes won't be random. They'll be like named. Like for example, when you do enchanting later on, you guys will notice that like you'll be able to add in enchant these runes that you can attach to weapons, kind of like materia from Final Fantasy VII. Then it'll add like some kind of special unique effect to it as well.
That'll work.
So that's
have a name, right? Because like you can't have a sword without a name. That's just not right.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, will the crafter's name be listed on like the auction house so you know who the crafter is?
Not on the item, but you'll be able to see the person's name who's selling the item.
Oh yeah, that works too.
Other than that, I'll take like one or two more questions, and that's all. Anyone else have any questions or not just questions? I'll even take comments if you want to just throw that out there. And then I'm gonna wrap this up because this is an hour past what I intended to do.
Well, I'm glad because otherwise I wouldn't have got to hear anything because I done forgot. Fell asleep.
It's
Cool.
worth a 6 to 8 month wait.
I do want to say one thing. I appreciate everybody. First off, if you back the game, thank you. If you didn't back the game, still just coming out and being in the part of the communities, big thank you. I'll try and do more of these later on as time permits. But I don't like doing stuff where like time doesn't permit.
Yeah, thanks, man. This is really helpful. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I'll try and get stuff updated on the website too. I do know certain things on the website's not updated, and hopefully you guys certain things on Steam page is gonna get updated too.
Bro, that website
Yeah, the trailer
is
needs
like,
an overhaul. big time.
That website, there's like that placeholder for like the classes. It's off by just a bit, and it's screwy. It hurts. It looks like there should be 2 more classes. Are we adding 2 more classes?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Oh, we're getting a bard's class. Oh, never mind. You don't like music.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, we already have a planned bard class. A swashbuckler will eventually be a planned bard class.
Ooh.
Oh,
Can you go in more detail?
No.
Yeah, eventually we'll have some kind of bard, really cool bard class. So the tier 1 and tier 2s are very basic actually, if you think about it. But when you step into the realm of tier 3s, those are going to be very like cool and unique classes. Those are where the bread and butter of the game is. So here's how it works. Like tier 1 classes are obviously what you start as. Tier 2 is going to be something that's going to be pretty easy to get. It's tier 2 is going to be like maybe like anywhere from like 3 to like 5 hours of play, and then you'll unlock tier 2.
I'll
Yeah,
become a
you don't.
grand wizard and delete that character just to make everyone hate me.
You're not gonna need to get do a lot to become tier 2. So tier 2 is gonna be like where you finally start the actual game. These tier 1 classes are more like tutorials than they are actual like classes. The tier 2 is when you finally start the actual like I guess class, like the in-depth fun class mechanics.
Oh,
and then
actually,
the tier 3s are the ones where you get to specialize into the role that you want to do.
Actually, speaking of classes, you did mention about legendary quests for like say Grand Wizard or some other classes that are like, was it tier 4, tier 5?
Grand Wizard and there's 3 tier 4 classes confirmed right now: Dark Knight, Soul Reaver, and Grand Wizard. All 3 of these are gonna have a special quest to them that are gonna be kind of hard and grindy. Not just grindy and hard, but like also like there'll be a lot of riddles. I don't know if you guys are good at riddles, but a lot of these hidden quest lines or anything hidden at all is gonna have a massive riddle behind it. And I've actually used to make a lot of riddles back in the day for a lot of like events that I used to host for kids and such. And so these riddles are going to be like tied to a lot of flavor text and lore based things within the game. So if you study up on your lore and such, or any other gameplay mechanic that you've seen within the game, you'll get to try to, I guess, decipher the riddles.
This is unfair. This caters to actually smart people. God, this is
You're not gonna make it easy for us.
Get learned, boy.
I'm not smart enough for this high thinking riddles.
Get learned.
Oh! Before you go, proverbs. This is from Sock himself. Astaria win.
Well, I mean, you guys have the heads up on the Steam release date and the what happened with the lunar sale, but the 28th will be the Steam date. The 24th is still probably the date that everybody who backed the game will get to buy it or play it. Sorry.
Ah, so, man.
Like, I turned 25 on the 17th. What do I get?
I mean,
another month to wait.
I can probably just delay the game like a year on your birthday. It'd probably be a good idea.
Oh, that'd be great.
It was supposed to come
Fuel
out.
The memes.
It was supposed to come out a day after my birthday. Then it was delayed like 4 months. So we're not going to talk about like what happens with birthdays in days.
All right.
I
well,
mean, we already made a joke that this is already a campaign now. This is like the expansion pack,
Broski,
man.
the first boss is clearly named Delay. The first boss, the rat boss, his name is unofficially Delay.
We can't even get past floor 1. It's Sword Online all over again.
Bro, the boss sits there at the entrance kicking your butt before you actually get into the... God damn it.
We haven't even made our character.
No, the first boss is getting past the little circle after you hit the login button. You know.
There's going to be 25,000 people trying to download at the exact same time. We're already being loading screens.
Yeah. In other words, the first boss is delay. More delay.
And you'd be in the ghost queue and everything.
Exactly.
You know what? I get mine 4 days earlier, so I only have to contend with upwards of 70 people to get into, and I feel like that's okay. Well, actually, hold up. The supporters get it too, so like 100 and something people, but that's okay.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks again for everybody who's been believing in the project. This is way more people than I thought would be interested in the project. I'll be real with you. Like I said, I originally thought maybe like 100 people on Discord and like 10, 15 players at most.
Good luck, man. Wish you the best.
Yeah, for sure.
See you later, boy.
My battery's pretty low. Do you see the clarity? Gotta tell you, I know.